Okay. Ooh. So, oh God, is this going to work? Maybe a little bit. Hello. There's the camera up there. Hi. Hi. I wanted to have a quick video about recent books that I've read and a bit of a review of them. I do write reviews of books I have written them in the past. On my blog, you can find a link in the description box, but I sometimes feel like writing, first of all, it takes up more time. You have to do the editing. You want to have more coherent sentences than I could ever muster speaking. And sometimes it just feels nice to have a little book chat, I feel. So as my kids are with their grandparents, today I thought, hey, why not pick up a few books that I've read recently to share my thoughts. I have got my nice afternoon cup of tea here. Oh, it's hot. And I have 3 books today that I want to talk about. One of them a bit briefer. It's just going to be a quick review because honestly, it's been a while since I read it and I cannot fully remember anymore what it was about. But I know that it was good. I am in general reading, I've got a lot of new books. I went to Edinburgh in the beginning of the year and I got really great books that I so far only have read one and I'm going to review. But just that in case you want to have a bit of an idea of what you might want to read, I got this one, which I'm hopefully going to read soon. It's so beautiful. It's A Treasury of British Folklore, Maypoles, Mandrakes and Mistletoe by Dee Cheney. And this book is just so pretty and I can't wait to delve into it, but I haven't felt like reading nonfiction of late. The second one is The Anxious Generation, which I think is very acclaimed, very known. It's in the news right now. I haven't read that. It's How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. Very, very intrigued by this one. I also got it at the Waterstones in Edinburgh and so this is on the list. But today I'm not going to talk about those, just as a little what you might want to read. The first book I am going to review, and this is going to be the quickie, is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. I got this, I know that this is a book people know, right? I got it at Shakespeare & Co., Shakespeare & Company in Vienna. And it's a bit ago, but I had to, it was one of those books, when you have a book in your hand various times. There are various reasons why you don't buy it. Maybe because you don't feel in the mood for it right now, or maybe because you already have 15 books on your stack, that you haven't read yet. And you feel like you should probably read those first. But it was then finally the time that I felt like I want to read it. I love the book design, the cover. It is so, this is actually what spoke to me. It is about a boy called Bod, or a nobody, because nobody knows him. He is raised in a graveyard by ghosts, the ghosts of the graveyard. The book starts quite shockingly by a serial killer called Jack, the man Jack, he's described, who kills Bod's entire family, including his little sister. And Bod, being a bit of a naughty toddler, has wandered off to the graveyard, and there the man Jack cannot reach him. And he's safe, but he mustn't leave the graveyard. And he then grows up there. He's obviously a quite weird boy because he's growing up in a graveyard with wearing grey clothes, and he's educated by the knowledgeable and wise men of the graveyard. He lives with, good Lord, let me find it out quickly. So Silas is Silas, I think, is he a vampire? I guess so. He's not a ghost, but he's a creature of the night. And then there is Mrs. Owens and Mr. Owens, who are a ghostly couple who have never had children and who take Nobody Owns in. That's why he's called Nobody Owns. and Silas is like his guardian, but he can leave the graveyard. The ghosts cannot really. And it has this sinister undertone because you have the man Jack, and it's like a bit of like a guild or like a, what do you say, a cult of men who wanna who wanna harm Bod, and there's also like a very ancient creature living underneath the graveyard that's very dangerous, or is it? And it's about, but in the end of the day, it is a lot about just Bod being a child and trying to find his common ground in the world that he's living in. And also, obviously, the older he gets, the more he asks questions. Why can I not leave the graveyard? What's beyond there? I want to find out. When can I leave? And I think it's really a beautiful book. It has a very interesting plot twist towards the end that I did not see coming. So I would definitely recommend it. It is obviously a children's book, but I love children's books. Like, they're just the best. It is wonderfully quirky. I mean, it's set in a graveyard, for Christ's sake. So how could it not be? And I will definitely, I don't know, if I was pressed for it, I would definitely give it 4 out of 5 stars. The pace is really good. And I just love the characters in it because they're kind of all inherently flawed, including Bod, but like in such an endearing way. And the man Jack is, I think, that has a very sinister quality to him. It's like to the whole organization that he works for. So it's really kind of unputdownable once you really get going. And it's one of those things where you just love all the characters in it. I really loved the characters in it. Moving on to the next. So definitely recommend. The next one I read around Christmas. It is Winterhouse by Ben Gutterson. I hope that's right. Ben Gutterson. It is about an orphan, so obviously that's already a good start. All books today, by the way, I just realised, are about orphans. So let's make this the theme of today's book discussion: books with orphans in them, which does not really narrow it down in children's literature. But again, a children's book. It is definitely, there is a sequel already, The Secrets of Winterhouse, which I have yet to read. But I bought this and it was like the perfect book to read over Christmas. I mean, look at this. It is set over Christmas, so it's the perfect Christmas book. So you might want to hold out on this one. And it is about a little orphan Elizabeth Summers, who is, what was she, like 11 or 12? And she lives with her very mean uncle and auntie. And they're not really her uncle and auntie, but they make her call her uncle and auntie. But they've kind of always treated her like shit, and she's really not, she's very bookish. So it is quite tropey, the book. Like, she has brown hair and glasses and kind of scraggly hair. So she's like a mixture between Hermione and Harry from like what she looks like on the cover. And she loves books and reading. And one day, so the last day before, actually on the day of the beginning of the Christmas break, she comes home to find the house locked, and her aunt and uncle saying they have gone on a holiday without her, and she is to spend Christmas at Winterhouse. They have attached a little bit of money for the fare, and that's it. And so Elizabeth sets off to get to this Winterhouse hotel. She's terrified that it's going to be awful and all the things. And on the way there, she sees a couple of like 2 black-clad figures who seem to be watching her and give her the creeps. But then she arrives, and Winterhouse Hotel is actually fantastic. It is this huge, beautiful house, like country manor hotel, with huge Christmas trees and, wonderful food. And she's thinking how, like, her aunt and uncle were like always turning around every penny. So how do they afford this, and like that, where's the catch? And the owner of it is Norbridge Falls, and he's making sure that he checks on her, and she has a beautiful room, and she's enjoying the time, and she's also meeting for the first time in her life a friend called Freddie. He was set to Winterhouse Hotel by his parents, who are not interested in him. They are traveling, and they're going to be there for Christmas, but they always send him there earlier. But he loves Winterhouse Hotel. Now, Winterhouse Hotel has a massive library, and obviously for Elizabeth that is a huge, huge thing, because she loves books, but so far she only could, afford very few books, or she went to the local library, but there they have so many books. And she then finds a book lodged behind other books, and she just takes it from the library, even though she knows she's not supposed to, but the book speaks to her, like she feels like she has to have it, and she hides it in her room. And the book slowly starts to reveal letters that weren't there before, and they start spelling out a word. And so kind of magical things are starting to happen. And Freddie, he is really into word puns. And generally this book is very much, when you love puns and stuff, or word ladders and stuff. So every chapter starts with a word ladder. And they also then do a treasure hunt, scavenger hunt, that's the word, with the secrets of Winterhouse, like Freddie and Elizabeth. And then there were also the two black-clad people are in there, and they bring a huge kind of coffin-esque crate. And no one knows what's in there, and they don't allow anybody to go into the room. And Norbridge tells her to stay away from them. So it's all but then they approach Elizabeth and tell them that Norbridge is sketchy. And Elizabeth has seen Norbridge wander around the library at night with a torchlight. And she's confused by this, because she's he's the owner of the hotel. Why does he have to sneak around? And then there are suddenly moving pictures. And so it starts to get very magical. And I love that. This is so great. For me, it was really a great read, because it slowly built itself up. And then there is Norbridge's long lost sister, Grazella, who was the troubled one, who is the black sheep of the family. And mysterious things are starting to happen in Winterhouse, and it sort of all revolves around Elizabeth. And also her parentage, where does she come from, who was her mother? She's got a necklace still from her mother, and nobody knows anything about that. And it's just it's mysterious. It's who am I? A traditional orphan story. Who am I? But also what's happening here in this Winterhouse Hotel. I will not give away too much, because this is supposed to be a review and not... I will do discussions of some books, but this is just a review. I love this. I really did. It is one of those things where, one of those books where you just want to be inside the book. Because Winterhouse Hotel sounds like the place you just want to be, especially around Christmas. It's like Hogwarts or Narnia, it's places or Middle-earth for the Lord of the Rings fans, I guess. It's just one of those books where you viscerally wish you could be there, that you could be part of the story. And for me, that was Winterhouse Hotel. And I can't wait for it to return to it, because there is a sequel that I have yet to read, because I have so many other books on my stack that I haven't got around to it. I might even wait until next winter, but I'm not sure if I can wait this long. And so I really, really enjoyed this book, and I can only recommend it. I loved as well that the characters in it, and with all the whimsy, were also kind of inherently flawed. Elizabeth has really a stupid side to herself as well, where you're why did you do that? Or why did you say that? And Freddie is very pouty and very he has they're not perfect characters. They all have their troubles and their issues, and I think that makes a book so much better. Like when you have that, it's also very well written. Like the description of the hotel and of the surroundings and so on and so forth. It's really well done and inviting. Anyway, last book about an orphan. It is about The 11th Orphan by Joan Lingard, winner of the Scottish Arts Council Award. Well, congratulations, Joan. This book I also bought in Edinburgh. Not that that changes anything about the book, but I just wanted to brag that I went to Edinburgh. And this book, first of all, I mean, the cover art, like, oh my God, I just love it so much. This already spoke to me. I was like, I need this in my life. Sorry. This book was, so the author has a bit of an intro, a foreword, because this book is set in a pub in the beginning of the 20th century in Stoke Newington in London. And her grandparents had a pub in the beginning of the 20th century in Stoke Newington in London. And her grandmother was a very sturdy and stout, round woman, and her grandfather was like a very dandy-esque, educated man. And they ran this pub together, and she's kind of written this in memory of her grandparents. I don't know how much, like, I'm gonna start with the book now. The grandparents and the people in the book overlap, but it's definitely, as I said, it's set in a pub called the Pig and Whistle in London, in Victorian London, and the pub is owned by Ma and Pa Bixby. And Ma Bixby is a stout, rotund, sturdy woman who had a nosebleed. Very strange. Anyway, so excited I get about talking about books. And Ma and Pa Bixby, they own this pub and they have never had their own children, but they've always, like, they started at some point taking in orphans. And they have this rule that they never take in more than 10 orphans at a time. But on a very cold January night, a police officer stands in front of their pub and he has a very scraggly 11-year-old girl with him. And he says this is an orphan and she ran away from the orphanage a few months ago and she's basically on the brink of becoming a criminal, and he doesn't want to arrest her because she's only 11 years old, if maybe they have some space for her. And Ma Bixby is very reluctant. She's like, well, no, sorry, this is my nosebleed. Third time's the charm. And she says basically, no, we only have capacity for 10. But Elfie, the orphan, she has a little bag with her in which she has the belongings of her mother, who died, I don't know, at childbirth or shortly after, and which is obviously the dearest possession she has. And in it, she has a photograph of the Pig and Whistle of a few, like a decade ago or so. So her mother has clearly a connection with it. And so Ma Bixby is intrigued, and she then decides, well, you know what, we'll just make an exception. And Elfie becomes the 11th orphan. Elfie, on her side, is not too keen to be adopted by Pa and Ma Bixby because she's just fled from the orphanage a few months ago where it was awful, and she's living rough since, but she's independent and she doesn't want to be like incarcerated again by a family. But because she has this picture and she wants to find out like who her mother was and which connection her mother had with this, and also she really, really wants to find her father because she hopes he's still alive and that he can take her in. And so she goes in, and it is quite, Elfie is very she's a really kind of unlikable character in many ways, but I mean, that's kind of expected. She's 11 and she's had it very hard. And Ma Bixby is a bit like, I don't know, Mrs. Weasley. Like she's very kind, but very firm and very strict. And she's like, you have to earn your living here, and you have to like be part, and you do have to follow the rules, and so on and so forth. And I'm just looking for all of the names, because there's one of the other orphans, Ivy, who is the same age as her, who doesn't like Elfie instantly, and Elfie doesn't like her instantly, and who constantly basically tries to stand her up and to not to stand her up, to like call her out and to get rid of her. But there's also, is he 12 or 14? I don't know. I think he's 12. 12-year-old Billy, who is black, and he becomes her best friend, and obviously has, you know, a lot of racism to face, and so on and so forth. And yeah, and so slowly, Elfie becomes part of like this world, and you see like these lovely references to London, and then at some point she runs away, even though she's happy there. I'm not going to get into detail of that, so I don't spoil or anything. But also to say, so Pa Bixby, he's also like the author's grandfather, very dandy-esque, and he's very educated, and he actually educates the children and teaches them writing and reading and life in like, was it ancient Rome or something, like very, very interesting things. And he's also promising Elfie to find her father and to look into it. And at some point Elfie runs away because Jo gets beaten up by one of the gangs that she knew from her street life, and because they recognize her in her nice coat and her done up appearance, they then attack Jo. Because they wanted to attack her, and he stepped in, and he gets a really, really bad scar on his face because of that. And she's very upset and runs away, and then is snatched off the street from a Christian couple who want to basically adopt her and make her their child, but they're very creepy. And so that's a whole like subplot. And yeah, so it is really about a story of like, who am I and where do I belong and where do I go? I like the pace of the book. I think, I mean, as you can see, it is not a whopper. It has like 240 pages or so, and 239. And it's like a really pleasant read. Like, you just go on reading. The characters are great. Again, like a bit like Winterhouse. I mean, mine, Pa Bixby's pub is obviously not as pretty or as done up as Winterhouse Hotel, but still, it's kind of a place you feel the warmth exuding from, and you want to be part, and you want to sit in the classes with Pa Bixby. And then there's obviously the question, is she going to find her father, and how are things going to work out and everything. Again, high quality read. Really enjoyed it, especially when you love Victorian, foggy, cold January London. It's just such a great book. It is so vibrant in its descriptions, and yeah, definitely recommend. I also think, am I wrong? I feel like there could be, book 1 in the Elfie and Jo trilogy. So there are 2 more. I have only read the one. I'm sorry, I'm so underprepared for this. We call it authentic. So I will definitely read. I have a lot to do. I have to read the second one of this one, and 2 more of these ones. So I have a few things to do. What I am going to be reviewing next time is this one, and I have it in my bedroom right now. The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. That's got to be in the next video. I hope you got a little bit out of this. As I said, 3 great picks for reading if you are into stories of orphans, children's literature. That's yours to read. And yeah, see you next time.